Meg 2 The Trench, the giant shark sequel we've all been waiting for with bated breath, is finally here. Okay, maybe not bated breath, but with anticipation. Or maybe not anticipation. Okay, maybe we weren't really waiting for it, and maybe we hadn't thought about it since the first one left the cinema, but somewhere in the back of our minds, I bet there was a vague thought about big sharks. I mean, we're men. If you aren't thinking about sharks, or cars, or our other favourite subject, then something is seriously wrong. So grab your scuba gear, poison-laced pointy stick, and your shark-proof cage. Okay, well maybe the cage is a bad idea. And join me as I dive into the sequel to the movie that had us all thinking, how is a giant shark movie still not as cool as a big shark movie?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
But before I get started, please consider subscribing, as that would really help me out. And if you like this content, give it a like. Okay, on with the vid. So Jason Statham finally returns as, Jerome, Jackie, Jill, Jared, Jericho, Jamal, Jones? Oh well, whatever his character's name was, he is back, and he is badder, madder, and even more dangerous to know. At least if you're dumping toxic waste, or if you happen to be a giant megalodon shark, since both of these are on his shit list. Jason has spent the time since the last movie chasing down dodgy sailors and generally making a nuisance of himself. But he still has friends in very high places, so his career as the go-to underwater sub-research rescue guy that can handle dangerous deep water situations is still secure. And a good thing too, because since the last movie, it has been discovered that below the thermo-whatchamacallit, there are innumerable megalodons just waiting for someone dumb enough to come exploring so that they can use some sort of movie plot device to escape into the world and eat people in holiday resorts. And this time they've brought their friend the giant squid and some dog-sized lizard things that are as happy on land as they are in water, even though as a species they probably haven't seen land in millions of years, but the script wasn't going to let a little thing like evolution of a species get in the way of being able to have creatures with big teeth chasing people along a beach. So the movie opens with Jason Statham doing his best eco-warrior James Bond as he infiltrates a ship dumping toxic waste. He beats some guys up and then escapes the ship by diving into the sea and being scooped up by a seaplane. And I mean scooped up, as though it is one of those firefighting planes, which means he has to spend what I can only imagine is a very uncomfortable time in a freezing cold water tank using bottled air to breathe while he waits for the plane to land. The stupid thing is though that the sea was nice and flat. No one from the ship was going to attack them, and they had already landed the plane on the sea to scoop him up, so they could have just picked him up like civilized humans, but that would have been a lot less cool and a lot less macho. We then meet Chinese guy, and he's testing a cool exosuit that gives him the strength of one Jason Statham as he smashes concrete blocks. We learn that this is Mei Ying's uncle. Mei Ying is the little girl from the first movie. Anyway, so Jason goes to a big party where the Chinese guy says Chinese stuff, and if like some acquaintances of mine you're of the opinion that if you wanted to read, you would have picked up a good book, then this scene is going to be mostly gobbledygook. Mind you, things don't improve when he speaks English, so I guess everyone has to suffer. We find out during the party that the guy speaking is the brother of the Chinese girl from the first movie, and somehow she is now dead, leaving Jason Statham to raise her daughter Mei Ying for some reason. I guess we can assume they had a serious relationship after the first movie, before she died of, probably embarrassment at having been in the first movie. Mind you, after she hadn't already died from embarrassment after being in Transformers Age of Extinction is one of those great mysteries of our time. So it turns out that after the first movie, they found a pet megalodon and have been keeping it in a pen where the Chinese guy's been trying to teach it to fetch, roll over, and play dead. It isn't actually that great at the last one, but it's pretty good at helping others do it. After the Chinese guy gives a demonstration of his Meg teaching technique, everyone heads off to the oil rig from the first movie. They climb into their good old submersibles and head back into the trench through the thermocline, which keeps the Megs from invading the sea with their giant teeth and wagging tails. All of a sudden they find they are being stalked by a Meg that didn't come out of the trench. How could that be, I hear you ask? Well, it is their pet Meg, which decided the night before to leave its Meg-proof pen via what I can only assume is the entrance they got it in there through. Either that or it is the biggest design flaw imaginable for something that is supposed to keep a big fish from eating all the little fish, people. So somehow their Meg goes through the thermocline, which seems to be even worse than their Meg-proof pen at keeping Megs from going wherever they like. If one turned up playing craps in Las Vegas, it wouldn't surprise me. This movie seems quite happy to attribute whatever it needs to attribute to them to make the storyline work. So the subs meet a bunch of other Megs who are apparently mating, and they're about to investigate how giant sharks get it on. When they find an underwater base that shouldn't be there, then after everything goes wrong and they use their exosuits to make it to the underwater base because their subs are broken. What do you mean I missed a bit? I thought it all going wrong and the subs being broken was a given. Surely that's the purpose of subs. We learnt that in the first movie. Private submarines are crap and break up. I mean, look what happened to the Titanic. What, too soon? Okay, so the sharks get it on, and yes, the Chinese guy Jason Statham and Mei Ying, plus extras, at least the extras that didn't get killed by the giant squid, dog creatures and the water pressure, go to the underwater base. Speaking of the exosuits, they're not entirely solid, they have soft bits, which makes me wonder why the people wearing them didn't get crushed, but perhaps I'm thinking about this too much. So they make it to the base and find that another company has been using the Chinese guy's technology to mine rare earth materials from the trench. In fact, one of the guys is still there, and he isn't a fan of Jason Statham for reasons that didn't matter then, and don't matter now. But the movie needed a Jason Statham enemy that wasn't a fish, and this guy is it. Thanks to a traitor, the Orig base is attacked by the bad guys who made the underwater base. Jason escapes from the trench with his friends, thanks to him being able to squeeze all of the air out of his body, making him able to withstand pressure 1,000 times that of the surface. So that is a pretty handy skill. Well, he was an Olympic diver, so he must know what he's at. As you would expect, the Megs escape from the trench, so now there are 3 of them running around eating the natives. And from this point on, I'll refer you to the first movie, because it is basically the same, with the slight exception of a bigger cameo from the giant squid and the dog-sized lizard things which give the script a chance to make dry land seem unsafe, even though they are evolutionarily impossible. The Meg action is kind of lame, and beyond the bad guys getting a grisly comeuppance, leaves you kind of cold. I wanted there to be tension and edge of your seat nail-biting close calls, and while there is a little bit of that in the underwater fun, the above water action is just so. I found the original Alligator movie more entertaining. Oh, and Jason Statham kills the Megs again. This time though he uses a bomb and a helicopter rotor blade, because he is nothing if not resourceful, although I have to wonder how a helicopter rotor, which while strong is not really very substantial, was able to kill a creature that had already eaten a few boats with no harm. Perhaps it just went down the wrong way. So, Jason Statham kills the giant shark, and everyone lives happily ever after, except the extras and a few non-starring supporting cast members, and of course, the Chinese girl from the first movie, whose unexplained death was actually the most interesting thing about this movie, and the only thing that's had me thinking about it since I left the cinema. So if you want to watch a movie about giant creatures living below the surface and coming up to eat us, and also some smaller creatures which are also trying to eat us, then I suggest watching Tremors 3, because it is basically the same but a lot more fun, plus Burt Gummer. This has been Movie Suck, wondering if Hollywood is going to get completely bought out by the Chinese. I'm wondering if the Meg 3 will see flying giant sharks like a kind of Meganado. Signing out. Leave a like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.